Hey guys, it's mid-May right now and I'm out here doing some whitetail scouting on a property that's brand new to me. And I thought I'd just kind of take you through a little bit about some of the setups I find that are appealing to me when I'm out scouting, kind of what I'm doing here right off the bat when I'm looking at a brand new property. And so I did some map scouting on Onyx before I came out and everything to try to identify kind of those transition edges out here. We've got a good mix out here of kind of grassland, swampy, cattail slough type cover up against hardwoods. We've got some aspens and then some oaks and things like that intermingled in amongst here and everything. So the first spot I just prepared here and came upon is one that I almost just walked past and stuff. So I'll kind of turn the camera around and show you kind of how I decided to come back on this spot and look at it and everything. So all right, so you can see we're in an area right now that has a pretty good diverse set of habitat, which is kind of where I key in on when I'm looking at the maps and stuff. In the back, you know, we've got ag ground kind of surrounding us here, and then we've got, you know, hardwoods, some willows, kind of meeting up against willows over there, meeting up against cattails, and then over in here, this is wet right now in the spring. Potential that it would be dry in the fall, and if so, that would serve as good bedding cover right in there. But anyway, it's a good mix of habitats here that come together, so that initially catches my eye. And so I'm coming in and we're not far off a road here. We're within about, I don't know, 100 150 yards from the road. So my mind actually, I was not necessarily thinking to myself that I was going to prepare a spot necessarily that close to the road, which I kind of get into sometimes. I need to kind of get that out of my mind sometimes, because just because there's a gravel road there doesn't mean it's going to necessarily deter, you know, deer movement, obviously. And, you know, I know that, but it's easy sometimes to get into your head that you need to get way off the beaten path and everything before you have a promising spot, but that's certainly not always the case. So I came through here and you'll see it just kind of, there's just a natural funnel through here, right through here. You can see how it opens up. It just serves as a natural funnel. And I was walking through and there's not like a defined trail that goes through here. I mean, I think it's wide enough and clear enough to where they're not like just taking one exact trail through this. You can kind of, I don't even know how much you can see it when the green is coming up like this, but there is a trail kind of leading right through here that I can just kind of barely see. But anyway, I walked through and I looked at it and immediately I said, you know, I could kind of, you know, I could see deer using this obviously as a natural, you know, funnel to move through here. But I kind of ignored it at first, and then you can see how it kind of leads back into more cattails here. There's some oaks over in that general area over there, and it kind of pinches down over here. Well, I got up there and found a set of fresh droppings, and I just kind of stopped and I was just like, this is kind of dumb to walk past this and not have anything ready. You can see there's actually a pretty good trail where it comes right through here over this spot and everything too. So I did come back and just to look and see if there was any trees I could get up into. And that one right there, there's a perfect hole there that's going to allow me to get up in my saddle and have a nice easy 15-yard shot to this opening. So I kind of stopped and looked around a little bit more. I found more droppings here, you know, more fresh droppings right here. I examined a little more. Here's a nice bed right here that you can get down in it. And let's see if I can show you this, but deer hair in it. So anyway, I'm going to be able to kind of come in up through the woods right here on a morning or evening sit really, and just slip in right here, get up into that tree and shoot to this opening. So yeah, you know, kind of a good spot. Could be a good spot during the rut when they're cruising and everything too. You've got a lot of cover over here that could serve as bedding. So on a southeast based wind, which would be blowing back this direction, it would protect me in that tree right there. And plus it would make sense for those deer to be traveling along here, along these edges. You got all those cattails out in there. Makes sense for them to, on a southeast wind, when it's blowing all across those cattails this direction, they're just going to be able to efficiently check for does, you know, walking this edge and coming through here. Same over in here, lots of cover over in here. They can skirt this edge right over in here, scent check, and just walk the landscape efficiently during that time of year and everything. So, all right, guys, so this is kind of the main spot I wanted to get to on the property, and it's as good as I thought it would be when looking at it on a map. What you have here is just a classic land funnel where you've got I've got a cattail slough that comes to a point over here, and then a cattail slough that comes to a point over here, and you've got on these side hills right over in here along the cattail slough, it's a really nice thick cover. You've got really nice thick cover over in here, and I just figured that if I could, you know, over in this area where these sloughs meet, I'm sure there's, you know, just a classic funnel where there's going to be great trail systems coming together. And sure enough, you can see, you know, coming here, it goes up into here, and up top over here you have a nice flat shelf that extends about, you know, 150 yards back there, coming off these side hills that are nice and thick, where you've got some oaks mixed in there and everything. So assuming that there's acorns this year, good feeding cover in there, surrounded by good bedding cover. And you can see how trail comes out of here, drops down into this area, and then another one comes right through here, drops down into this area. So it's a situation where I can sneak along the cattail sloughs. Probably, I'm thinking, you know, when I look at this spot, I think of it as like a morning sit in that kind of rut period where we're getting close, late October, early November type of thing, where on a south wind, I can get up into, I'm going to prepare basically a spot for any kind of southeast based wind and any kind of northwest based wind. So that tree right there is where I'm going to be able to get into for a south based wind. And there's not a great tree over here for a north based wind and a west based kind of northwest wind. I wish that there was something a little bigger with a little better background cover, but I can get into this little one right here with my saddle. That's the nice thing about saddle hunting, is I can get it kind of on the back side of that and hide myself a little bit better. But bow shots will be nice easy shots inside 15-20 yards, and then just depending on the wind, I'll sneak up the edge of the cattails over here where it's kind of grassy cover in between the timber and the cattails, and same situation on that backside and everything. So this is kind of just your classic spot that really gets me excited, because for all these factors coming together, you know, you've got good habitat diversity around here, you've got a food situation not far away up on that flat with the oaks, you've got bedding all surrounding it, whether it be in the cattails or just in this thick cover and everything. And then you get down in here and you see it, and you can just kind of see how everything funnels through here, and then just kind of go from there with your setups and everything. So I'm excited about this spot. This is going to be an area where I'm sure I'll definitely hit during the rut. All right, guys, I've got everything set here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this tree that I've got set here. It's this tree right here, and I'm going to get up in my saddle on the backside there, and you can see it doesn't have a lot of good back cover. It's a little thinner than I would like it to be. I wish it was a little bigger, with more horizontal limbs coming off it. You know, it's not like the perfect looking tree, but it's where I need to be in here. So I want to talk specifically to what I do on trees like this. So you can obviously kill deer out of trees like this, especially it's nice with the saddle because I'm using that trunk to set up on the back side of the trunk so I can lean off this edge and shoot, you know, as a right-handed shooter. But you just really have to time your movements well and understand kind of how the terrain lays out around you. So what I mean by that is, so if I've got deer, so the main trails coming out of the bedding are here, and then another one coming right out of here. So if they come out, I'm going to be kind of hidden behind that back side. And if they come from this direction, I'm going to know that I've got a blocker right here in this tree to be able to draw. So I'm going to wait until that deer comes behind that tree. I'm going to then just use my knees to push myself off that back side, off the edge. I'm going to draw back, and all of a sudden, right when he's right here, he's directly broadside 15 yards from me, and I'm drawing back, and he hasn't seen me draw yet, so I can stop him right here and get my shot off here. Same thing as if he comes from this direction, you know, down this direction, comes through here, it's this tree that I'm using as my blocker. So coming in here and scouting this out and seeing this, I know exactly, I've got a game plan of exactly how I need to execute in order to pull off a shot in here. So that's just so, you know, it's just like one of the things that makes scouting so important. It's knowing that you can climb into a tree. I mean, this is mid-May, but knowing I can climb into a tree months from now and remember, okay, you know, I know how things set up. I know how they, you know, might move through here. Now, obviously, you get in here and you're going to see things, and then you can adjust off a hunt or whatever. But it's so beneficial to come in and see these things and kind of execute a game plan in your mind before you actually get out here and hunt. So that's my plan, to be able to kind of execute a shot here. You know, the last 2 years I've shot and deer out of trees just like this, kind of beanpole trees that are about, you know, 15 yards off the trail where I want to be. It's just about timing your movement, watching the body language of the deer, and then using blockers like that. If you get these trees in front of you, use them as blockers. Don't try to draw when they're coming, and you can see their eyes. They'll probably pick that movement in a tree like that. But if you can have trees in front of you that you can use as blockers like this, it's a really good way to get a shot off. So I'm on a different section of this property right now, a day later, and this is a piece or a section of the property that is way back there. It is a long ways off. It's a long walk back here. Basically, it took me 45 minutes to get back here. And I don't think anybody else who hunts here really ends up coming back here much. I'm seeing no human sign. There's no stands, anything like that. And you can see here, this path that at one point had been cleared is pretty grown up nicely and everything. And you've got, it's just a jungle back in here right now. It's really nice thick cover. And on the back end of this, back in here, this is kind of it's a big block of timber, but it's kind of shaped in a horseshoe shape. And on the back end over here, it's surrounded by cattails. A nice slough that has some good water for them, and cattails on the edges and everything. So there's just, they could bed any number of areas up in here. There's some nice good high points. I'm on kind of a high point right now where it stays elevated. And then as you go back down there, you can see how it drops off. And there's an ag field down on that end of the area. So I think I kind of scouted back in here, and it's so green right now and growing up that it's hard to really see exactly where defined trails are or anything like that. So I think my safest bet is to basically hunt closer to that field, assuming that they might take this path. You know, after bedding anywhere, they can kind of filter out into this path anywhere from around in here and take this path down into that ag field to feed and stuff in the evening. So I kind of think of this as an evening spot, but I'll show you where I got my setup here. All right, so this is the tree I'm gonna get in my saddle with. So it's another tree that I'm gonna have to you know, be careful with my movement and things like that when I'm drawing. But there is, you know, some decent background cover right in there and everything. So I found when you're kind of hanging off that back side of the tree, as long as you kind of hold still and everything as the deer is approaching, you almost look like you're just a limb as you're kind of, you know, pushing your feet off from the edge of the tree on your platform and everything. You just kind of look like a limb up there until it comes time to draw. So, but the reason I chose this spot is because on a west, northwest, even a southwest wind, it's going to blow my scent out back that direction, which is a safe zone for me. And deer coming down this path here, if they get onto the path and come down here, it's going to be pretty efficient for them too, to be, you know, in terms of safety. They're going to be covering most of this tree cover with the wind blowing out this direction. So it makes sense for them, you know, to travel this edge and everything on a west-based wind. And then they obviously can come right down this path. And then there's also a good trail that kind of leads off right here and leads off down there, and it parallels that ridge here, and this is where it enters the path right here. So my wind's going to be safe. My tree is that one right there. So it's just tougher for them to get behind me in that tree. Now I think because this is so far off the beaten path that I am, you know, I typically don't set up over paths like this, and maybe I overthink that. I just don't hunt. I don't hunt properties where I can manage the pressure that gets put on them. And so I always feel like my best bet, if I'm looking for an older buck, and even adult does, a lot of times that I've seen, is to get back into the timber a little more, get off these paths and get back into the timber. But I just feel like nobody, and you know, maybe others have success hunting paths like this. I'm not saying, you know, don't do it necessarily. It's just that that's been my approach in the past when I'm hunting properties that are public or shared or shared permission properties, is to get into the timber more, because that's where, you know, the deer are gonna probably not have as much experience dealing with pressure. But I just feel like nobody is ever back here, so I think maybe at this point that they will use this to for sure exit. So I feel a little more comfortable in that. And also, you know, this is gonna you can see how the trail, it kind of elevates over here, so I'm gonna be able to come in down this direction, slip up here, get into the tree on a low ground area here, where I should be able to get into the tree nice and hidden, and then use that, you know, use the trunk and everything to block as I go slowly up and get set up. But I should also be able to see pretty good out into this direction. So you know, I'll be able to monitor things and see how they move, if they move differently than on this path and stuff. How are they doing it? Is there any consistency to it? And if there is, you know, being mobile just allows you to adjust off of that. So I feel like this is a good starting point for this area.